Up next, we've got Hooman Parvardeh with Assetlntel and Eric Buell from UDOT talking on a platform for optimal earthquake response for UDOT.
Hey everybody, my name is Eric Buell. I'm the Bridge Program Manager with UDOT Structures, and today I'm here with Hooman with Assetlntel. We're going to be talking about Emergency X. Emergency X is a newly developed mobile inspection software geared towards looking at bridges after an emergency event. So I'm going to go ahead and go through kind of the background of how this app came to be, and then Hooman's going to take over and talk more about the app specifically. So the idea for Emergency X was born out of a real-world scenario that happened in Utah for us 2 years ago. So on March 18th, 2020, we had a 5.7 magnitude earthquake, and that hit on in Magna, Utah, which is on the west side of Salt Lake County. You can see on the left there's a map of the event, with that yellow dot being the epicenter, and then all the red dots were the aftershocks that took place after several days. On the right, you can see a shake cast report of the same event. And so based on the output of these maps, we had a total of 715 bridges in the impacted area that needed inspection for damage or deficiencies. And so luckily we had a process in place to do this. And so within an hour, we had all of our inspectors at the complex where we work. Teams were developed and everyone was mobilized and sent out to start doing inspections. The current process the process we had before Emergency X was pretty straightforward. Essentially, inspection teams would go out to a bridge, do an inspection, just look at all the elements and see if there was any damage that should be noted. They would use pen and paper to fill out some information about the structure. We would then adhere a sticker on the bridge parapet next to the structure number stamped into that parapet. The inspectors would then take a picture of that sticker and text it to one centralized person who would record it in a spreadsheet that you can see there on the right. So this spreadsheet, we had pretty limited access to it. Just for data integrity, we didn't want too many people messing around in there and changing things. So overall, after the earthquake event, we felt that our response was pretty successful. We had pretty rapid response in the beginning. It took 2.5 to 3 days to look at all those bridges, but we did recognize that we had several challenges and lessons learned from the event. So some of those challenges are listed here. The first one, scheduling of inspections. This was done purely by phone calls. So we would call each team. One person usually would tell people where to go. And you had situations where some teams were showing up to the same structure at the same time. Sometimes you'd go to a bridge that had already been looked at. So this was something we wanted to mitigate going forward. The next one, updated metrics to be reported and delays in reporting. We had a situation where, because we were texting all these images to one person and cell service was crazy busy that day, as you can imagine. Becky Nix, many of you know, she's our bridge management engineer. She was the centralized person getting all of these texts, and so she was getting them basically throughout the night for 3 days straight. They would take hours to get this condition data in. So that was something that kind of slowed down our response and decision making. Having a single point of contact is not ideal for this situation either. If something had happened to Becky or Jara Irick, who's our bridge inspection manager, it would have been a little chaotic. There would be a lack of direction and not knowing where to go or what to do next. So having a single point of contact, something we wanted to get rid of. And then of course, this system that we had was reliant on cell phone connections. So if there was a loss of service, we would kind of be stuck. We partnered up with Assetlntel, who provides our InspectX, which is just for our routine inspections, mobile inspection software. And we had several goals in mind when developing this new software for emergency response. And so in terms of scheduling inspections, we wanted to import and track the assets that were impacted and the level of impact directly. We wanted help prioritizing those impacted assets, and then a more streamlined scheduling system for assigning those bridges out to people to inspect. In terms of performing inspections, we wanted a more simplified workflow with maps and something that anybody could pick up and just do. We wanted this to work with and without cell phone or internet connection, so more of a database type format. And if we did have internet connection, We wanted that data to be sent back to whoever was keeping track of this in real time so we could make those decisions as the event was going on. In terms of reporting data, we wanted to have kind of prefabricated dashboards that we could use to report this data instead of just a spreadsheet that you'd have to sort and filter. We wanted something that looked presentable that we could give to senior leadership so they could make some decisions. And then we did not want to have that secondary tracking sheet in Excel. So it's just something more reliable than that. Some other goals that we had, again, we wanted this to be straightforward. A lot of our level 1 inspection teams are local maintenance sheds throughout the state. So if they were the first ones on site, we wanted them, maybe they didn't have as much bridge experience as our level 2 inspection teams. So we wanted them to just be able to go through and rate a bridge, pretty straightforward and simple. We wanted that decentralized setting, so AKA the cloud. We wanted to focus on earthquake response with this app, but then have some flexibility to maybe use this in other emergency situations like high water flood events or oversized loads impacting girders, things like that. The process that we have now with Emergency X incorporated in that is basically an earthquake event will be recorded within the app. The assets will be imported from the shakecast maps that we have, and then we can go ahead and schedule those inspections to the various teams that we'll have available. Those inspectors will mobilize and perform those inspections offline or online if we have service. And then any aftershocks that occur after the main event can also be recorded within the app, and then we'll have that real-time data reporting to senior leaders. So going back to the original goals that we had for the development of the app, with Emergency X, the process improved greatly. So in terms of scheduling inspections, we have shakecast pretty much integrated into the app. And we can also import a custom list of assets as well. So it doesn't have to be an earthquake event. We can put pretty much any list of structures in there that are impacted by some emergency. The workflow has maps available. So at a glance, you can kind of see a map of the affected area and see which bridges have been visited yet or not. And that's extremely helpful in this response effort. Overall, less time is required to schedule these inspections. Instead of being on the phone for hours and hours telling people where to go, you can just assign bridges to certain teams, and that's a huge time saver. In terms of performing inspections, we're looking at this paperless system now where it's a more streamlined field-collected data using your phone to take that photo and uploading it straight into the application. So it's pretty slick. Inspectors will also have access to the latest NBI inspection data from the previous inspection. That can help when looking at a bridge, knowing maybe what areas you need to focus on, whether it be deck, super, or sub. And then, of course, we eliminated that need for that secondary tracking sheet. And so in terms of reporting data, we can track the progress of each inspection team, where they are in the event response, as well as the entire effort. We have those dashboards in place for commonly asked facts. And so if someone says, how many have you looked at so far? How many have damage? How many do we need to do a project for? We have all of that ready to go. And then, of course, we have a complete digital history of the inspection events over time. So if there are aftershocks, for example, we can see each bridge, what damage did it sustain during each stage of that emergency. This allows for the decentralized operation of this effort. And like I said, we're going to be trying to use this for other types of emergencies outside of earthquakes. And then, of course, getting rid of that paper documentation really streamlined the whole process for us. So, but yeah, we have been testing this with our maintenance sheds, with our inspection groups internally, and we really like it. It's kind of one of those rare instances where we really like a product, but we hope we never have to use it. So, but I'm going to pass the time over to Hooman now. He's going to talk more about the app itself.
Thanks, Eric. Just going to go over a few slides about the application. I'm not going to go into much depth, but if you have more questions or if you want to know more, you can come and get me at the booth or talk to Eric. In general, Emergency X is an incident management system for your infrastructure assets. So we talked about earthquake, disaster events can be floods or hurricanes, or wildfire that is happening more frequently in the West. And as Eric said, even bridgeheads can be documented and basically inspected as part of Emergency X. The reason bridgeheads can be useful is that if you ask a lot of states, like how many bridgeheads did you guys have in the past year or two, something that it's usually the statistics is not there easily. So with this system, you can not only have all those statistics, but also a place that all the data goes there, and you can go back and see how many times this bridge got hit in the past 5 years. So the main components of the system, we have a monitoring component that basically monitors for these disaster events. Like if there's a flood, it can tell you that it's monitoring for it, and when it happens, it notifies the right people. That's the second component, and the last component is the response component that helps you and your team, the managers and inspectors, to respond to the disaster event. In terms of the monitoring part, depending on the disaster event, it's either real time, for example, earthquake, there's no science of forecasting it, but if there's a flood or hurricane, we can do a forecast for that, and so depending on what type of event it is, it can be forecasted, or if not, in real time. Once it happens, it'll basically notifies the right people through different channels. These channels can be emails or SMS or Microsoft Teams or others. In terms of the response, basically you'll get a list of impacted assets with the level of impact. You'll have your basically organizers and response team. These can be maintenance crew or inspection crew. They'll be assigned to these impacted assets, and the managers, they can go and do their inspection using the mobile phone app, and the managers will be basically on top of the situation at all times. There's a web app and a mobile app that basically the web application is used by managers to manage the disaster event, and mobile app is used by inspectors in the field to do data collection. Just a few, basically, couple slides about how your agency can utilize this basically product for different events. In terms of earthquake, hopefully it never happens, but if it happens, then a lot of states on the west side, they have ShakeCast integrated. So ShakeCast provide a list of impacted assets with the damage level that can be imported into emergencies, or it can be integrated with it. So now you have your list of your impacted assets that you need to respond to. Then you can schedule those inspections and assign them to the right teams in Emergency X. And if in case there's any aftershock is happening after the earthquake, you can reschedule those assets that were impacted by the aftershocks. Once that's done, the maintenance or inspection crew that are assigned to these inspections, they can basically use the app on their mobile phone and do an offline data collection. Once they're done, they can upload the data, and then managers will see the data as they're uploaded in real time, and they can be on top of everything. And at the end of the day, this helps you, your agency, to keep a digital record of all the events that happened as part of an earthquake, and all the inspections and everything. So you don't need to keep different paper records, or if you want to go back and see what happened, go into your emails and see what happened. Everything is in one place. In terms of flood, it's similar. If a flood event is about to happen, the system can notify you. We don't need to wait till it happens. So it notifies you about the assets that are going to be impacted with the scour damage that they're going to have. So, and it constantly monitors for the level of the flood in real time. So if things get worse or better, it notifies. The system notifies you. Inspectors can go do a quick offline data collection about from these bridges and see what's the level of damage. Once they're done, they upload the data, and managers will basically see the updates. Basically, can be on top of what's going on. And again, like earthquake, you'll have one place to have the digital record of all the things that are happening, all the inspections, and this can help you meet the FHWA requirements for your scour plan of actions. There are two modules, the web app and mobile app. I have two short videos that basically shows you how these work. So this is the web app, and what we're gonna do, we're gonna create a dummy earthquake event, give the information about when it happened and the severity of it. When you have shakecast, basically this can be automatically triggered and created if it happens. So this is the event page. We're gonna add basically a set of assets, or we can import this from shakecast. So that's what we're gonna do. This is the Excel file that shakecast creates. So now we have, for example, 32 impacted assets. We can see the list of those and level of damage. And you can do any type of filtering that you want on the data. And basically, you can use the list section or the map section to schedule your earthquake. So if you have like different regions, you can use the map, for example, to draw a polygon and assign them to the right groups. So this is how you assign the inspection to the right teams. And the nice thing is that now those inspectors that are assigned to these inspections, they already know that. You don't need to call them or email them manually, let them know. So if basically an aftershock happens, you can record it here, and then depending on which assets are impacted, it can automatically reset those schedules if the inspection is already done. And also all the aftershocks will be recorded, so you don't need to basically keep a like a paper trail of that. This is the dashboard, like management dashboard, that they can see what's going on with all the inspections or schedules, and basically helps them stay on top of everything. So let's look at a quick overview of the app that basically inspectors use to collect the data from the field and upload it for managers to view. So first they need to, when they have internet, they need to download these schedules or inspections to their mobile phone. And from there they can access their bridge data. They can see it on a map, or they can get direction to the map, or they can see what's the deck or super sub condition of that bridge. And if you do have InspectX, this system is integrated with InspectX. They can see the latest reports as well, so it helps them. You don't need to have InspectX, but there are a few advantages if you do. So this is the direction to the bridge. And this is the default inspection window, so they can choose the time of the inspection. They can basically assign a severity or damage level to it. Utah has green, yellow, orange, or red. Different agencies can have different levels. Inspectors can add a description about the damage, or if there's no damage, they just can mention it. And they can take as many photos as they want as part of the inspection. Photos can have their own caption to make it more understandable what's going on. And once they're done, they just finish inspection, and they can see the list of the inspections that are done, and they can upload it to the server. So once uploaded, managers can basically view the data. That's basically a quick summary of how the website and the app site work. That's the last slide. I don't know why the question slide doesn't come, but basically that's an overview of emergencies.
The preceding was produced by the National Center for Pavement Preservation. More information can be found on the web at pavementpreservation.org. Additional support provided by Michigan State University.